Life under Musk. Move fast and break things. That's his mantra. And we watched it play out during his radical shakeup at Twitter. Now we are watching him in action, but this time he's moved his tech bro energy straight into the White House. Trump's #1 slasher-in-chief hacking away at federal government. Deja vu for former Twitter employees and a dire warning for those federal workers living in fear.
Yeah, so is past prologue. So joining me now is someone who was fired by Elon Musk, Rumman Chowdhury. She's the former engineering director of the machine learning ethics team at X, and she was part of the first wave of Musk layoffs there. And attorney Shannon Liss-Riordan. She represents more than 2,000 Twitter employees who are suing Elon Musk's X for his, that's what he renamed Twitter, for his treatment of them when he acquired the social media platform. Thanks for being with us. Rumman, first to you, tell us a little bit about your experience at X when Musk took over and what Americans might gather from that.
Sure. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, past its prologue here, the specter of Musk predated him even coming into the organization. The culture of Twitter, which was one of openness, collaboration, the transparency started to crumble. We saw people scared for their jobs, scared for themselves. The same things we are seeing: lack of transparency, lack of communication, no accountability, and also mysterious engineers popping in from other organizations such as Tesla or SpaceX, interrogating us about our work, again, before he had even taken over the company. It's a very scary time, and I empathize with all the federal employees that are just trying to do their job.
So how did, Rumman, the layoffs at X go down? And how do you think federal employees are feeling right now?
Well, if they feel anything like we did, it's confused, it's scared, it's concerned for who's going to do the work that needs to be done if their job gets cut. Now, social media is not the federal government, but teams like mine and others in trust and safety had a responsibility to individuals to ensure they weren't being harassed, stalked, etc. All of that was going away. It is, quite a similar experience. I think one of the most important conversations I'm having are with people who are managers and people who run teams. Now, it's one thing to just be responsible for yourself and your job, but if you're a manager, you're responsible for the careers of many people, and they look up to you for guidance and direction. And right now, I'm sure the federal government and people who care about their teams have very little to offer. It is a really tough position to be in.
Absolutely. And Shannon, you're representing former ex-employees who received that fork in the road email at that company that demanded they explain what they do or else. So how does that apply? First, in this case, don't employers have the right to request information from their employees and dismiss them if they don't like what they hear? And how would that apply to the federal government, do you think?
Yeah, so Elon Musk is taking a page out of his playbook from Twitter and just he experimented with it at Twitter and kind of liked it. And now he's trying to do it with a federal workforce. So we represent hundreds of former Twitter employees who were also given an email with a very creative subject line, a fork in the road. And they were told that they needed to click on a link by the next day, within 24 hours, if they wanted to commit to his vision for Twitter 2.0 being extremely hardcore. And if they didn't do so, then they will have been deemed to have voluntarily resigned, which is the same thing that he did with the federal employees, sending out this mass email called a fork in the road, telling people that they can just resign if they don't believe in what he and President Trump apparently believe for the federal workforce. But the thing about it is that when an employer instigates you are leaving a company or a job, that's called a termination or a layoff. It's only when an employee actually instigates leaving the company that it's a resignation. Musk has shown that he loves calling things resignations in order to, I guess, try to claim that it's not his fault or the employer's fault that someone has left. He did this with these questions that he asked the federal employees over the weekend to send in the bullet points, the 5 bullet points of what they did last week. And if they don't respond, that's a resignation. He said that with Twitter employees. He said if they don't show up for work in their physical offices, resignation accepted. The same thing is happening with federal employees, but that's not a resignation. That is a termination. Federal employees have rights, just like the 2,000 Twitter employees who we're representing. And I do want to note that Musk claims to be doing all of this in the federal government, like he did at Twitter, in order to cut costs and be more efficient. But what he is doing and what he did at Twitter is not actually cost effective or very efficient. We're representing 2,000 employees in individual arbitrations, and based on our calculations, they are paying, Twitter/X is paying at least twice as much for having to go through defending these cases than it would have if it had just paid what these employees were owed. They were promised a very generous severance if they lost their jobs, and they haven't gotten paid that, and that's why we are pursuing these legal claims for them.
Okay, so then, Rumman, let me ask you, and you made the point, Rumman, that, the federal government is very different from Twitter. Twitter clearly is still successful. It's a successful platform.
It's functioning.
Yeah, it's functioning. Folks' livelihoods were impacted. But knowing what you know on how Musk operates, do you think that the federal government will be better after all these cuts and firings happen? Or is he just going down a dark path with really no clear ending in sight here?
Unequivocally, things will be worse. And Twitter actually is not performing well. Elon Musk himself posted about how the company is not making money, they're not meeting their goals. So for all of his slash and burn, they're not doing well. They're hemorrhaging ad revenue. They're losing users every single day to Blue Sky and other platforms. Objectively speaking, just looking at the numbers of people on the platform and revenue, he has been worse for Twitter. And in fact, the debt that he accrued to buy Twitter is actually being sold for pennies on the dollar, again, because Twitter is becoming an increasingly, or X is becoming an increasingly worthless company. So this is the track record we have going into the federal government. So this mentality that he has of making things better is a unitary view of his view of better. It is not better for the American public. Definitely not better for the average citizen. It is better maybe for his bottom line, his pockets, his business deals, because it's amazing how now suddenly there is no accountability and now there are new government contracts for his companies and organizations. There is little oversight into conflict of interest. And, you want to, you'd ask yourself, what does better look like for the federal government? Does it mean, the most powerful and the most wealthy are going to get all of the gains? Because that's where it looks like it's headed.
Rumman, Shannon, appreciate you both.
Yeah, thanks
Another
very much.
side
It's
of the
really
story.
interesting. Yeah.
Yes.